huge swathe of land, much of it wilderness, in southern Chile and Argentina. Patagonia is very thinly settled, just 2 inhabitants per square kilometer. All the better for the numerous animal species. Among them, the tiny, fragile Darwin's frog. It reaches a maximum length of 3 centimeters. Despite that, this frog didn't escape the attention of the 19th century naturalist Charles Darwin on his trip to Chile.
Unfortunately, at present, these frogs are highly endangered, mainly by changes in the soil and because of a disease that's spreading. That's why it's necessary to protect these animals outside their natural habitat as well.
In Concepción, in the middle of the country, the frogs have found a new home. After the capital, Santiago, it's Chile's second largest urban area, and it now has a breeding station for frogs.
The idea is to breed them and reintroduce them into their natural habitat, to help their heavily impacted populations recover.
Biologists have built their breeding station on the edge of this state-run university campus. Support for the project came partly from Germany, from the Leipzig Zoo. It's moist and cool in here, just how the frogs like it. Darwin's frog comes in brown, yellow, and green variations. Some seem to change color during their lifetimes. It's not yet clear why. The species' main features are known, but other than that, there has been relatively little research.
One of its main characteristics is its shape. You see here its triangular head with its protruding nose, which is really just a fold in the skin. The actual nose is at its base. It has very long, thin limbs, and its coloring and markings look like fallen leaves.
The vet's happy with the way these frogs are developing under his care. Some of the males and females share a terrarium. And the researcher's strategy is working well. Just a few weeks ago, new babies hatched. Strangely, the offspring of this species are carried by the father. The male swallows the fertilized eggs and retains the tadpoles in his enlarged vocal pouch while they develop.
Here they're moving inside him. We're lucky to be able to see them.
For the layperson, it's fairly hard to recognize. The scientist says this kind of reproduction is unique among amphibians. 500 kilometers south of Concepción, there are still Darwin's frogs living outdoors in Huilo Huilo Biological Reserve, a hotel resort that focuses on ecotourism. 6,000 square kilometers of the area are a nature reserve. Its head biologist is Veronica Toledo. Today she's going out to look for Darwin's frogs.
I like this frog a lot. When I saw it for the first time, I fell in love with it. And knowing I can save it from extinction awakened my desire to do so.
She examines the frogs 4 times a year. Some of them are suffering from a dangerous skin disease.
The chytrid fungus is the main threat to amphibians around the world. So we take certain precautions when we enter their habitat. We handle Darwin's frogs only when wearing gloves, because we don't know whether and which of them are infected. And we use different gloves for each frog.
The chytrid fungus is responsible for a worldwide decrease in amphibian populations, including the dropping numbers of Darwin's frogs. But here in the reserve, the biologist has found only 2 affected frogs. The population seems to be stable. Once found, the Darwin's frog is relatively easy to examine and identify. It plays dead when it senses danger. And the black and white markings on each individual's underside are unique.
That lets me know if it's an individual I've found before. I can see if it's grown, whether it's travelled or changed colour, and whether it's carrying babies.
está preñado o no está preñado.
The protection project in Wilo Wilo follows a basic principle. The animals are never removed from their natural habitat. After a brief examination, each frog is returned to where it was found. Nature reserves like this are a stroke of luck for these delicate amphibians. Back to the breeding station in Concepción. A few dozen frogs will soon be leaving this artificial habitat. They'll be going on a long journey to Europe.
The idea is for the frogs to reproduce outside the country to give us another option. If we have any emergencies or trouble here, one of the zoos in Europe can ensure the survival of the species.
If the Darwin's frogs can weather the trip halfway around the world, they'll soon have new homes in the zoos of Vienna, Chester, Leipzig, Düsseldorf, and Berlin.